What's going on there, true believers? It's your boy Enforcer. And yes, I am stuck with the 90s again. I'll be stuck with the 90s for a minute now. This could be the third week in a row. But we're talking about wide receivers, and we had so many good wide receivers in the 90s. It was kind of hard for me to narrow down to nine and have four honorable mentions. But you might like my list, you might not. But, you know, let's just see where this goes. Let's fucking go. Yeah. So, as always, top five Thursdays. We're talking about wide receivers from the 90s. And I'm going to start off, as always, is the honorable mentions. So, y'all already know what it is. Here we go. My first honorable mention is Mr. Andre Reed. Andre Reed was part an important part of the K gun. He was smooth. He was swift. He was the guy that would get the tough catches with inside the the linebackers, the slants, all that stuff. He was one of those guys, and he actually could take a slant all the way to the house if have to. That picture I just showed you was actually one of the touchdowns he had from that epic comeback, which is still one of the biggest playoff comebacks in NFL history and happened in the 90s. Next, I will mention is Sterling Sharp. This catch actually was in the wild card game, um, Green Bay against Detroit, where, if I'm not mistaken, I think Sterling scored all four touchdowns. But that one right there with the game winner, um, Brett Favre was on his own. He was on the countdown a couple weeks ago, and yeah, Sterling Sharp. I think if his career didn't get cut short, he was on his way to possibly be one of those guys we talk about, like T.O., Randy Moss, of course, the legendary Jerry Rice. This guy was breaking records. He was catching. He was catching. He had a catching record back to back seasons until it got broken. But Sterling Sharp was a bad man, just like his brother, but he didn't talk as much. Next, honorable mention is Mr. Rob Moore. Rob Moore started his career off with the Jets in the late '80s, but he really picked it up in the '90s. Even with the Jets, he picked it up. But when he got to the Cardinals, he became one of the outstanding wide receivers of the league back then. That he recorded 100 catches one season. He was on the team when the Cardinals went to the playoffs and upset the Cowboys in Texas Stadium, which was just no one saw coming, but the Cardinals did. And next and final honorable mention, they're not related, but they got the last name, Herman Moore. Herman Moore was Megatron before Megatron. Herman Moore would jump over you, catch, as you see right there, he caught with defenders all over him. This dude was outstanding, and the thing was, you got to remember, he had Barry Sanders in the backfield. It was him, and I think it was Brett Perriman on the other slot, and I think they had one more wide receiver, Morton, Johnny Morton. They had an offense. I don't know why they never went further in the playoffs. E Even Scott Mitchell looked like an All Pro quarterback with that. So I don't know. I can't understand. But Herman Moore was an All Pro. Uh, memorable thing about Herman Moore, like I just said, you could throw it up there and he'd jump over you and catch it. He was Moss and people before Moss even was a thought in the NFL. That's surreal. So let's get to this count. All right, let's get to it. Let's stop the nonsense. Of course, number one. the first person. Again, when I do these lists, it's not about the order that they in. It's just the top five that I picked. So please don't come at me like that. Um, so first person I'm going to talk about in the '90s. God, even though he started in the '80s, that was doing good in the '80s, but he was more dangerous in the '90s. Mr. Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice, not the fastest guy in the league, but boy, when he run, he's gliding. That right there, there's not that many people that could take a 5 in route and turn it to fucking 60 yards. Jerry Rice can. Jerry Rice, in this decade, became the all-time leading receiver in touchdowns, receptions, yards. It was in the decade. He did all this in the decade, and all-time leader in touchdowns, total touchdowns. This man did it all, and it's not like he was losing a step either. Like yes, he got injured one year, and he damn near missed the whole season. Came back, scored, and got injured again. But he came back the next year, did Jerry Rice things, and I guess they thought he was done, but he wasn't. Jerry Rice was a beast, the greatest wide receiver of my lifetime, um, greatest receiver of my lifetime, and that's all to it. No hate over here. Jerry Rice, look at that. Look at that. It don't matter with two hands or one hand. This man is going to catch that ball. Hey, he's a son of a bricklayer. I guess that's what I can say about that. Number two. If I gotta talk about Jerry Rice, I guess I gotta talk about the playmaker, Michael Irvin. And kids, if you're watching this, and yes, that's the loud mouth that's on every sports thing that would cry Cowboys to the death of him. But he had a big mouth back then, but he backed it up. The playmaker, Michael Irvin. Yes, he did some things. I am not going to go on here and talk about his personal life, but on the field, on the field, with how the Cowboys was, with that line and Emmett and Troy being very accurate, he had to throw to someone. Michael Irvin is that guy he threw it to most of the time, most of the time. And playmaking, he did. He lived by that nickname, playmaker. He is a three-time Super Bowl winner, most of the time Pro Bowler. If I'm not mistaken, I think he is the all-time leader in receptions in the Cowboys franchise. But you know what's scary about when you see that mouthpiece? That's all you see. Is mouthpiece. Look like a big ass pacifier. But Michael Irvin he was not no slouch. Mm-mm. A game to think about with Michael Irvin. I think I'm gonna go with the NFC title game. No, I'm gonna go with Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving, let's say 93. Was it 93? No, take that back. 92. Thanksgiving, Kansas City. Was it Thanksgiving? No matter. It was just Kansas City. And he did this boot bop catch. Like it bopped off the defender, then bopped off the defender's head. He clapped it and then caught it in the back of the end zone and made it look easy. Like I I I swear to you, this man was a beast. And yes, he does this celebration right here, just this with his mouth open wide, and he look like he's doing unguard with the fucking football. Michael Irvin was that's all I say. He's a fucking beast. Number three, we're gonna take it to the West Coast. I know I left the West Coast with Jerry Rice. I'm gonna go to another side of the bay. Tim Brown. Don't forget about Tim Brown. Tim Brown, Heisman Trophy winner, if I'm not mistaken, for the great University of Notre Dame, came out. The thing is, he was a late boomer. And what I mean by that is they put him in just for punt returns and kick returns. I think around 92, 92, 93, they respected him as a receiver. And he became dangerous. He not just a deep threat. He again, none of those receivers that were not afraid to go inside with the linebackers and safeties, take a hit, and take it to the house. Um, the sad thing about Tim Brown is he never got an opportunity to get that ring. Not in this decade anyway. He did get a chance to go to the Super Bowl in 2001 against the Buccaneers, but that's 2000. So we stay in the 90s with Tim Brown. Tim Brown, I think, is the all-time receiving leader, period, in Raiders history. Uh, Tim Brown is a Hall of Famer. In fact, the first three guys I picked is Hall of Famers now. Um, yeah, yeah. He didn't finish his whole career with the Raiders, but in the 90s, Tim Brown was not to be messed with. My fourth receiver, Mr. Hands, um, uh, Mr. I'll call him the sideline assassin. Chris Carter. Come on, man. Chris Carter, another one that got drafted in the late 80s, or mid 80s, but he had to fight some demons. He got drafted by the Eagles. He had to fight some demons, and luckily there was a coach that actually gave a damn about him named um, uh, Jesus Christ, how I forget his name, Mr. Buddy Ryan, the legendary Buddy Ryan, rest in peace. It cut him, and he opened his eyes, and luckily Minnesota gave him a chance, and thank God he gave him a chance because we was entertained by Chris Carter on this decade. Okay, before Randy came along, Minnesota had Chris Carter, and Chris Carter, it was a rare that if the ball touched his hand, it was dropped. Chris Carter was a great receiver. A highlight for Chris Carter probably was a Monday night game loss, but it was like a showdown between him and Jerry, and he went for over 200 yards. I think he had like 13 catches. Um, Chris Carter was not to fuck with, okay? Especially in the end zone. In the end zone, he'd do the most ridiculous. Reason why I call him the sideline assassin. He know where to position himself, catch the ball, and hold that ball exactly where he caught it, and fall all the way down with it, and then pick it up and show the referee, hey, I still got it. So he's yeah, I definitely love Chris Carter. Um, Let me just put that one picture up. Look at that guy. Look at that. And did not do it with the same freaking quarterback. He had Warren Moon. He had Brad Johnson. He had Randall Cunningham, not once but twice, and then he had Culpepper. So shout out to Chris Carter. And my final receiver, y'all about to lose your mind with what I'm about to say. My final receiver, it's a bad moon rising. Andre Rising. And yes, I put this picture up first because this is where he won the Super Bowl. He got a Super Bowl ring, which he don't treasure by any means. He don't treasure it, but he got Brett Favre's first touchdown was that throw, and Andre Rising was not no slouch. Okay, yes, his personal life. I'm not just like I did with Michael Irving. I respect not to talk about Andre Rising's personal life. We all know who he used to date, all that shit. But when it comes to that field, oh, and please don't mention this the snack box between him and Dion. Besides that, this man was a great receiver, with the exception of the Jaguar stitch and maybe the Cleveland Brown stitch. But with the Falcons, the one season in Green Bay, I think it was the one season with Kansas City, dude was great. He had great hands. He had some great speed. He knew how to run his routes. Andre Reed highlight, possibly again that Super Bowl. That Super Bowl. First, I was surprised the Packers picked him up, and secondly, like I said, the first throw of the game, he goes to I think it was a left post, and this he beat the defender and touchdown. So that is my list. If you got, if you don't have to agree, if you got a different list, you got top five, please put it in the comments, like, share, subscribe. I got more to come. Thursdays, top five Thursdays. I'm gonna keep this content going. But that's my top five receivers. Next week, I'm staying in the 90s, and we're going with tight ends. Tight ends, yes. It's not like how it was now, but we had some receivers that could play back then and today, and probably put up better numbers they did back then. So we'll see who's on that list. Until then, I'm your boy Enforcer. I'll be back. Will you? Deuces.